the greatness.
Oh, yeah. Frozen a little.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's going to be a bit of a technical day. Well, I'll just jump in and, Marg was asking everyone what is spirituality, what our perception is, and Susan, you and I both had an opportunity to share what we thought. So I'll just take it over to you, Brian, while Marg sorts out her little technical issue. So what is spirituality for you? Well, or what does it mean to you?
Well, spirituality, as well as religion, has been a huge part of my life. I guess in general, I find that most of the things that people say that you would categorize as spiritual, I would categorize as fairly evil and ignorant. And that doesn't mean that those things are necessarily bad.
Try again.
But I come from a very religious background, and I've seen a lot of evil things done in the name of religion, which we certainly see done in the world today.
Yeah.
And then, of course, people try and divide religion from spirituality and say religion bad, spirituality good. But I see some of the same attributes when people speak in spiritual terms, that they're still trying to tell other people, I'm special, I'm good, you're bad, in the nicest possible way, namaste, and so I am very suspicious of anyone using the word spirituality, even though in my private way, I suppose I have my own, and I'm very connected to nature, and I'm very interested in science as a way of perceiving, and also just simple perception and connection with food and trees and earth and gardening. So I am very suspicious of anyone using these words, they're spiritual at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that's why it's very off-putting for some, when those terms are spoken, because there's so many different perceptions around it. So it's very hard to, it's just not something we can put in a box, It is something that's quite personal, comes from experience.
Okay, I'm on a computer.
Yay.
We have power back. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. That was pretty trying time, and I know Kathleen, you had that the other day happen to you. So
took a while to get off track, but we'll be right.
Yeah, and you know what? I hardly heard a thing of what Brian said. It was just so revolting on my iPhone, and I'm just wondering, could you just give me a condensed version, Brian? Now that you've got the words out once, give me the brief.
Ultimately, it doesn't matter, but I'm distrustful of anyone who uses the word spirituality or religion. I usually think that they're trying to control other people, and I certainly have been a victim of that, and I don't want to victimize anyone else with my own views. I often find them to be irrational, so I don't know. At the same time, I'm very interested in recovering what is good about religion, which there are many good things about it, like the measuring of time via holidays. I'm interested in the good parts about things you could call spirituality, about actually connecting with other people without a lot of bullshit frosting or control mechanisms or defining other people in limited ways. So I'm interested in freedom for people to really intimately perceive each other. And so I think there's good stuff there. I really do. But I think that it's polluted utterly by the same kind of selfish, evil motivations that are involved with politics and religion. So I'm not sure how to differentiate those. I'm no expert on anything, but I think that's a good thing to look at yourself. If you consider yourself a spiritual person, to say to yourself, okay, well, how am I actually implementing the same evil that I think I'm escaping from? and I don't have a specifics on that because that's your issue and you're the best person to deal with that in yourself. And of course, I attack myself first and say, how am I dealing with people authentically? And for my own spirituality personally, how am I dealing with the earth? How am I making decisions about what I eat? Eat your choice about what to eat. I mean, that is a religious, spiritual decision that you make every day. And so I guess I would want to not criticize other people particularly. I'm in the mood to at the moment, but I guess I think we should all work on ourselves as the church of ourself, I guess,
I like that because it always starts at home.
Yeah.
Yes. And also there's the interconnectedness, I think, that we can't deny. There's the interconnection of everyone. And so in that way, I see myself as no better, no worse than anyone else. But I have all the good and I have all the evil, just as other people do. And I think that people live the best lives that they possibly can, given the circumstances and backgrounds that they've come from. So, yeah, I hear that you've had some experiences with religion, Brian. It seems like they haven't been quite so positive, and and people putting themselves on a pedestal, I suppose, with having the answers to spirituality. This is the answer. You must live like. And that's probably where we really, lose a lot of people in just wanting to be connected. We're all the same in a sense. I do people living a human life, and at that level, we are all. One, like the river, like the ocean, which drop of water is greater than the other drop of water. I don't believe that's the case at all. I think we all merge into one. Yeah.
I'd like to just say, I've got a bit of feedback coming from you. Just might need to turn it down a little.
Sure. Any better?
Yeah. That's
better. I was competing with the wind as well. We've got the elements involved today. The spirit is with us.
So Be More You said spiritual person and spiritual community can be two different things, and he likes spirit, which is nice. I like that.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to acknowledge. You need to turn it down a bit more. Sorry, Mark. Vin jumped in and just wanted to acknowledge Brian saying that he did say that there is some good in religion and that shouldn't be thrown out with the bathwater either.
Yeah, and I'm very interested in trying to identify that because, holidays are a good example. We need to mark the passage of time, and whether for you it's the solstice, which we all have to believe in because that's the sun, The sun is the ultimate God we worship, whether we want to or not. Or the equinoxes, and then there's other types of holidays that bring us together as family units, or maybe they celebrate what products of the earth, what foods are abundant. So I think there's actually a lot of religion that we shouldn't throw out and we should celebrate.
Yeah, and in terms of cultures around the world, I think every culture has its own sense of religion. Like we live here up in the Northern Territory, Kathleen and myself, and we're very connected with Indigenous people of Australia. And their religion is very much based around the earth. They are earthy people and the wildlife, the animals. Everyone has a totem. They identify with a particular bird or animal as their totemic group. So, and we know for groups around the world, whether you call it religion or spirituality, I suppose that can get caught up in the mix of words as well. But Kathleen, you were going to say something.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I kind of lost it. Sorry.
I was thinking about a comment somebody just made. Light Walker, Brian, define worship. How do we all worship the sun? Right now, the way we all worship the sun is because we all worship oil. We worship an industrial civilization that is built on a cheap energy source that is ultimately derived from the sun, because oil is ultimately derived from the sun. And that is where our whole civilization is built on. And after we run out of the cheap energy source of that, we will find that we're going to have to worship the sun more directly, not the ancient product of the sun. That was an interesting comment that guy made, or chick, or whatever. Huh.
Yeah. When I tweeted yesterday this session on what is spirituality, somebody came back and wrote numbers, and I don't know if they're here at all, but I'd love to. I said, I'm intrigued. Please join the conversation. But I don't know if, obviously numbers went hand in hand with spirituality for that person. So it just seems that there's a lot of positions that people come from when they think of the word spirituality. Can't say on it.
Thanks,
Be more you. Raymond. Raymond. Thanks,
yeah.
Raymond.
Yeah, he's cool.
Yeah. Catch you next time. So numbers, yes, is interesting. And I heard recently that in the Jewish tradition, I think the number 8 is really an important number. And people give, or 18, it's got 8 and a 1. And as long as there's an 8 in there, that's a symbol of life. Woo! So I found that quite interesting. 1, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Please explain. I'm not an expert on the numbers. Hi, Sones. Lovely you jumped in.
Thank you. I just have a couple minutes before I jump on a Shinkansen, a bullet train to Kyoto. But I really just wanted to say this is a very fascinating dialogue. And I appreciate where Brian is coming from. It's my first time communicating with Brian here. So this is very exciting. All right. So, I was just thinking, when we think about spirituality, isn't it more about that spirit? And what is spirit? Spirit is the essence of breath. Spirit is the essence of breath. And when we start to respect and honor that, and for those of you who don't know, I'm Sones. I'm from Japan. Well, no, I've lived half of my life in Japan. And this past week, I spent about 10 days in the U.S. hitting reverse culture shock. It was amazing. I mean, there were so many fantastic things that you can experience when you go to the U.S. And there's so many beautiful aspects. Like, people are just fully open. And yet there's an element where, that's a little bit over the top. And in Japan, we think about Zen Buddhism. We also think about Shintoism. And they don't hold them as religions, but more as spiritual ways of life. It is you are and you do, not you think about and you worship. And one of the fascinating things that came up this week in the midst of culture shock, and I'm just kind of curious, have you had good customer service before? Have you experienced great customer service?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then have you experienced, on the other hand, like, are you for real? Like, are you seriously telling me you don't care if you want my business anymore? Have you experienced that kind of customer service as well?
Yep.
Okay, so this is really funny. Somehow, accidentally on the website, I used 150,000 miles accidentally to upgrade to business or first class. I'm like, what? I didn't press this. Like, I don't mind riding first class, but don't usurp all my miles to do so. And, I'm pretty easygoing, and, Kathleen knows me pretty well. I laugh a lot, and, we can always find a solution to everything. And just observing, looking down the counter, there were all of these people who were temp staff. And then you had a couple of people working the business class who were full-time people. Like they were, they might have been Caucasian or something, but you've got all these minorities working down in the average, the temp staff, working with the everyday people. And I looked at that and thought, what happened here? What happened to honoring the spirit of other people? You've got all these minorities working here. Instead of giving these minorities full-time jobs with United Airlines, they gave them temp staff jobs. Again, racial declassification. Again, what is that? Putting people in a sort of caste-like system. And no one in that line was getting any service whatsoever, which means they weren't honoring the spirit of the people coming through the lines because they weren't feeling honored. You are not a whole person. You are just a temp. You make $10 an hour just to be a temp person. Where is that in the spirituality of the spirit of honoring another person? And of course, these people who are in the business and first class department, they're like, I've been working here for 30 years and I won't have a job past next December or past this December because they're cutting us off. Where is the power that is coming through to saying, I honor you as an employee. I honor your spirit. And I know sounds like a little bit off from spirituality, but come with me on this little ride. This little ride is saying that spirituality is more about not about religion or about your belief system. It's about honoring another person's spirit. And you can tell when the customer service comes down that the service may not be so hot, that obviously the people who are in this one category aren't being honored. And therefore, the customers aren't being honored. I rode in first class on this one flight. I have a wedding dress. I just got a wedding dress. Yay! Getting married. So I have this wedding dress. Here I am, upgraded because this woman saw that I recognized. She's like, you really get it. I'm like, yeah, everyone here should be honored. United Airlines should be honoring every single person at this counter, not creating a economic downfall based on temp staff hiring. Everybody should be the same. So she's like, you get it. She's like, I'm upgrading you. And so I got upgraded from Boston to Washington, D.C. on United. Get on board. Just like, tell them you've got your wedding dress to make sure it gets hung up. But I have my wedding dress, I'd like this to be hung up. And they're like, oh, just tuck it in the overhead bin. I'm like, really? You want me to stick my wedding dress in the overhead bin? Like, yep. Yeah, go ahead. I'm like, they're not even going to help me. I'm like, what the heck is first class about if you aren't going to treat somebody with first class, honoring their spirit? Okay, great. What about those little hangers behind my seat? And they're like, oh, yeah, but that's, I'm like, well, listen, it's behind my seat. I'm going to hang it up on these hangers. Did they help? No. All right. Get on ANA. ANA has a spirit of Shintoism and Buddhism, long in the culture. Do they practice that? Do they sit down and say, every morning I'm going to do my mantras? No. It's just simply who they are. I get on board. They said, I heard you have a wedding dress with you today, flying from Washington, D.C. to Tokyo. Please, let us take it up to the first class cabin and hang it for you. I'm like, thank you. They met me at the door of the airplane and said, here, thank you so much. I'll be sure to put it in this for you. We'll take excellent care of it. And they came by and they brought this beautiful letter. All the flight attendants on the airplane took the time to write a letter. And I'll show you this. It's really sweet. It's like, how often do you get this? Now, this is seriously, we're coming from, it's not because you have to practice a religion. America's full of we're part of different religious organizations. This is the letter. I honor you as a spirit. I honor you as a person. Just happy wedding. We hope you have a wonderful wedding ceremony in Chigasaki. Thank you very much for choosing ANA today. Big heart. We are looking forward to seeing you and your husband in an ANA flight. Please take care. Huge smiley faces, stickers, you name it. And here's the interesting thing, and why this is so fascinating is they don't think about, am I being spiritual? Am I being religious? Am I coming from a background of A, B, and C that's organized and orderly? But more so of, I honor you as a person.
Yeah.
They are honored in their positions. Their bosses come up and say, you know what? You're doing your job. They don't praise them because praise isn't part of it. They're not doing it for the praise. They're doing it because that's who they are. The president of JAL Airlines, he makes $98,000 US a year. Not doing it for the money. There's something more about the harmony, the respect, and the law, and that's where spirituality doesn't need to necessarily come into your everyday. Like, am I doing my ohms correctly? Am I am I following my religious principles? Am I practicing my spirituality? It's about honoring those spirits.
Yeah.
Why does anyone deserve to be honored? Light worker. That's a good question. Because we have breath.
Yeah.
And respect. I mean, if we treat each other with honor and respect, that will build more world peace. It's a matter of simply listening and connecting with that person. And nobody... Deserve is an interesting word. Deserve is entitlement. Excuse me. And that's another interesting cultural phenomenon I saw in the U.S. Like, you know, I have a mouth, therefore I'm entitled to speak.
Same in Australia.
Yeah. But in Japan, it's not. It's like, it's really chill. It's, you know, I speak because I have to, not because I want to. And anyways, I hope that was some contribution to this dialogue. But maybe spirituality isn't just about the religion, the practices that we follow, but more about how we live. And if it follows through in our everyday lives and our work, maybe then we can start creating a world of difference.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Sones. Yeah, and thanks for sharing the story, and a happy wedding.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, but totally agree. And it's not to deny religion either, because I think like the basic tenet of all religions is spirituality. That's a basic component. That's why religion exists in the first place. Religion exists to reach into that other realm. That's our greatness, or greater than, our physical outline, our physical being, and the five senses. And it does come in more into those intangible attributes and virtues, like you said, of honouring. Yeah, and why do we honour? Because we have life, because we have breath, we're alive, and everything. And I must admit, I sometimes kill the cockroaches, but they have life, and they're here for a reason, and we're here for a reason. And for that reason alone, we all deserve to be honoured. And deserve, yes, I absolutely get, and I have a bit of a thing about this entitlement. You know, it's not deserve, it's just we are. We are beings of honour, if you like, simply by having life. For as long as we've got life, we are a gift to the world, and we're a gift to and others are a gift to us. You know, it's a two-way street, and it is how we treat people. Exactly what you said. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for letting me pop in, and I'm going to
popping in. Have a good trip. Yeah.
Thank you, and I'll see you tonight, Kathleen.
Yeah, see you tonight. You are too.
You're a fantastic facilitator. Love you. Bye.
Love you too. Bye.
Lots of love. Bye. Yeah. So, Kathleen, did you want to say anything? I realise it's 5 to 1, and this was scheduled for 12, even though it didn't get off on time with
that's
all
okay.
the hiccups.
If you would need to go a little bit over 1, that's fine, Marg. I'm quite good with that. So, I'm really actually listening and taking everything everyone is saying on board. That's why I love this platform, and I love being a part of these conversations, because I just learn so much, and I like to keep my spirit quite open to different perceptions, because we've got a lot to learn. Everyone's got a story and a different experience with certain aspects of what we're talking about today. So, I just want to quite honour that. But I always find that I really did like what Raymond said about, I'm just trying to go back, where was it? That he liked saying of spirit, and can be two different things between the spiritual person and the spiritual community. So I do believe that if we come from a place where we hold unconditional love, and I guess I'm not sure how I want to say it, but I just think for me, honouring my spirit, it's like I have this little saying on my business card: my light, the light within me recognises the light within you. So if I can hold space for people to maybe shine their light a bit brighter, I love to do that. And it's not I don't want to say it so it sounds like, you know, it's up to me to do that, but all I want to do is hold space, because I know it's our own responsibility to shine our lights and to do that how we want to. It's, you know, I just think it's really nice to be open and to listen actively to people's different perceptions around this topic. If that I don't know if that made sense then. I felt like I babbled a little bit there, but hey.
Yeah, no, thanks, Kathleen. I note that I asked Vin to, please explain the numbers, and he's explained them even more. And they're still as confusing to me.
How do you, may I ask a question?
Thanks, Vin.
So how do you distinguish, I mean, as you talk about religion as a good thing, which I think I tend to see it as a pretty evil force in the world, or you talk about spirituality, and I agree with you, Kathleen, that there's great things about supporting other people empathetically and building themselves and expressing themselves. And I mean, I'm using different words than you use, but that's kind of how I interpret them.
Yeah.
But I mean, I also kind of get off on building other people up and supporting their own path in a way and their own expression. How do we make a dividing line between those kinds of actions and the really evil shit that is done in the name of religion and spirituality, whether it's the new agey spirituality of judging others and astrology and, you know, I'm better than you because I'm more spiritual than you, or I meditate more. Hey, come here. I got a crazy puppy here. Now, this is real spirituality right here. I'm going to introduce you to one of my little gods.
My partner just said, God is a dog. Spirituality is a dog.
Trouble. He wants to keep you.
There's your confirmation, Vin.
Yeah. Synchronicity.
That's beautiful.
Synchronicity.
Do you recognize the divinity in yourself?
He's gorgeous.
Anyway, but yeah, he's a cutie. His name's Sonrisa.
If God was,
but he just woke up, so now he's looking to go fuck with shit. Anyway, so how do we, in a pragmatic sense, in a real sense, day to day and year to year, divide the totally evil shit that is religion, the child killing, murdering, government supporting, terrible shit, and the poof head new agey shit too? How do we divide that away from the empathy, the respect for others, the respect for the earth? How can we make a line to differentiate these? Because I have a hard time doing it. I hear a lot of happy talkers on both the authoritarian end and also people who actually want to support others. And that's a question I don't know the answer to, so I just put it out there.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that either. I kind of really struggle with that, but I get I get your question, and it's a good question. But I just always come back to our own actions. Like, we can only be responsible for ourselves. And I think if we come...
I was just going to say, your question really is not about us, because from what you're saying and what the discussions I've had with Kathleen and Margaret, you know, I think we all in here know how to do that within ourselves. But your question is really generally for everyone else, the normal people. I mean, sorry, everyone. You know, the truth, the people who are seeking truth, spiritual truth, often get caught up in all of that claptrap stuff. You know, so that, you know, I'm understanding your question as being for those people. How does everyone avoid falling into that trap? It is an individual thing, and I've asked myself that often. How do you, you know, because you see people taking advantage of others, and it's you know, you want to get in and stop that from happening, but how do you do it? So it is a good question, and it's one I think we should ask.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I agree with both Kathleen and Vin that it comes back to ourselves. We do the best we can with the situation we have,
but do we have the responsibility
always trying
to help others, the ones that maybe
I think when we are in a good position with ourselves, like the question then is not what's in it for me, which is very much our society at the moment.
Yep.
But when we, you know, and until we do feel good about ourselves and that we are, you know, rich in who we are anyway, just as we are, you know, we don't have to sit on a pedestal or pray in the synagogue or whatever. Then I think we can turn that question from what's in it from me to how may I serve others. You know, I think that's a natural progression, but maybe it's not. And
sorry, Marg, I was just going to say, isn't that a natural human desire? Like, because we can't be alone, and we're part of a group, and don't we want good for the whole group?
Israel and Palestine is a perfect example.
Yeah, maybe.
Where
I don't know that many people.
One side should have empathy with the other. You think, how can it not be? How did they not put themselves in that person's position? Why, you know, when we invade and bomb other countries, you think, well, what if that was us? Don't you ever flip it over before you know? I'm constantly thinking of the other side. You know, do unto others as you would do to you. You know, those, and there we go. There's another good piece that we can take from religion, Christianity in this case. But
Christianity in practice has nothing to do with that. I mean,
well, some people practice
Christianity has nothing to do with Christ. It's a totally perverted, evil thing that supports death and destruction. And so is Islam.
That question, I just asked the question while I was eating my falafel roll while watching on the outside. You know, I had to have my lunch, but I asked my partner that very thing. You know, anity. You know, guess uality. You know, what are the other ones we compare it to? Because you know, the question is what is spirituality, and I thought, well, Christianity is the first thing to come to my mind. So, is spirituality to the spirit the same as Christ is to Christianity? And you know, it's you know, that's what I was thinking, just on the etymology or the words. And I thought, well, Christianity isn't really just the belief in Christ. It's almost like it's something more than that. You know, and is it the church? Is it the structured religion that is built upon the teachings of Christ that is Christianity? What is Christianity? I think asking that question is a little bit like, you know, what is spirituality to spirit?
Yeah, that's a very interesting take on it, Ben, and I love the way that you've gone back to the word and the formation of the words. But if we shift the question to what is Christianity, then I think it comes back to it's of Christ, because that's the origin of the word. So Christianity is of Christ. So how did Christ, it's Christ-like behavior. What was Christ teaching and acting out of that? And so I suppose if we use that same concept of the word structure that you raised, that spirituality, which is what Kathleen started off with, spirituality is of the spirit. And as Sones says, the spirit is the breath, you know, spirit, poof.
Yeah, but, you know, as I think the discussion we had this morning, like a few hours ago on consciousness is, you know, I again, in that one similarly said, you know, we have to start, and you did, with what is spirituality? What do we, because it's the intentions, you know, they're just words. Really, we want to know what your intention is when you say spirit, because we've boiled it down to of the spirit. And, you know, and you did talk about that. And, you know, I think it's important always to just get past the words and go, well, what did you mean by that? What did you intend to mean by that? Because it's the intentions. But can I shift it quick? I know, you know, we have to be respectful of everyone's time and everything, but I really just jumped in to explain the numbers because I saw that was the one comment that you got from. Please. You did get a comment response on your schedule from someone who said numbers, and that was the only response I got. And I thought, oh, no, you could have just added a few more words. And then my description was to use numbers. And, you know, if I can just say the quickest and easiest way to say this is 666. You know, that's a very spiritual number. It comes from the Revelations, and it says in Revelations, I can't remember what part, let him who have understanding reckon the number of the beast, because the number of the beast is 666. And I thought a lot about this, and thought, well, why would that number come out? And it was just through a whole separate set of studies in Egyptology that I stumbled upon the square of the sun. And the square of the planets, there's one for every planet, but the square of the sun is the most important one, and it always adds up to 666. So it's a solar number. And I think it was also interesting when I read the Bible, and I found this somewhere in Kings, that King Solomon, he wanted a tax from the people every year, every annual. That's a solar time. Again, we're talking about time. You were, Brian. And so even our calendar worships the sun. Of course, we worship the sun. So every year he requested gold, which is a metal that symbols the sun. It symbolizes the sun, or the spirit of the sun. And he, how many talents he wanted? The talent was the measure of gold in those times. 666. So, Solomon was like the most powerful man at that time, and he was like the beast in a sense, because he took, because what is evil? Money and greed is the root of all evil. And so the most richest man, the man who has all the gold, he's the most powerful, and he's the most greedy. And so the 666 goes with that. In other words, if I can decipher that part of Revelations, who's the beast? Well, the beast is the one who is the most greedy, or has the most gold, or has the most power. And if it's a man, and it's some man on earth now, then it's the most wealthy, greedy, powerful person. So there's a number that has massive spiritual connotations, depending where you come from, whether you come from Christianity or from much older sort of things, where the square of the sun comes from, which is alchemy and Hermeticism and magic, and also again from the Bible, from a different section where I said in Kings. So. But
I love that you brought up numbers. No. I love that you brought up numbers, Vin. You know how we all seem to kind of crisscross with things, but I just noticed that my amazing husband wrote on my whiteboard, to take care of the numbers, it starts with number 1. And I just kind of, you were talking about numbers, and I kind of looked, I thought I knew he'd written something about it. I couldn't remember what it was.
Wow.
I just thought it's just one of those little, synchronicity things.
And I must say, I'm impressed, Ben, that you have read the Bible.
Wow.
There's not many people that I know who have actually read the Bible as a book.
No, I have not.
Yeah, I read.
Not as a book. Yeah.
I grew up steeped in the Bible, but I don't see it as a revelation of God at all. It's a product of man.
Yeah, and it was written by men, but I do believe that I personally have a belief in the story of Jesus Christ and the stories of that have been told and handed down and have been written up as part of history, and the if I could say, the spiritual life of Jesus Christ, as a being of virtue, and teaching us how to live in a virtuous way. Yeah. And I think the best we can do is, try to emulate that as best we can.
Have you heard of the Jefferson Bible?
Yeah.
No, what's that?
I've heard of it. I don't know much
the Jefferson Bible, Thomas Jefferson decided that there was a lot of bullshit in the Bible, which I tend to agree with. And he decided to edit it heavily. And so what he did was he just selected out the words of Christ. He cut out the miracles, Old Testament gone, New Testament gone, just Jesus, just Christianity. And so
like Jesus' autobiography.
Well, it wasn't his autobiography, but it was some mix of the four Gospels. And so that's actually an interesting quick read to see, because I wonder that myself. Can I call myself a Christian? Looking at Christianity, I can say, fuck no. Christianity is an evil force in the world of hypocrites and assholes. It's associated with fascist governments that murder and kill people, just like Islam.
Yeah.
However, then I wonder, well, if I was
that's not its entirety, though.
then I wonder if I just looked at the words of Christ as whatever weird person he was, if he existed, then I wonder, well, could I call myself a Christian by those words? So if I read just the Jefferson Bible, could I say, yeah, that guy believes things I believe. I could think that that's good statements, and then I could say, okay, I'm a Christian by those standards.
Yep, that's a great idea. I think that's an excellent. I mean, it sounds blasphemous to edit the Bible because it actually says in the Bible you shouldn't alter one iota, which is one letter or one word.
Well, but the Bible's been edited tons of times, so there is no Bible that you can get a hold of that has not been edited totally heavily.
Yeah, well, yeah, it comes from multiple sources anyway. So does it? So it's a mix.
I'll look up the Jefferson Bible and send you a link to it.
Yeah, great.
Cool. We've had some good comments from Lightwalker.
And Pensive.
Pity that we didn't have.
Yeah, I love Pensive.
Yeah, it would have been great to have you on here as well, but we did get a late start due to the techie difficulties, and it is already 1:13. So I don't want to hold people's time up because I know blabbing takes time, and we can really go on with these conversations, and I'm going to continue them under different topics, but under the label of spiritual conversations. And everyone follow everyone else if you're not already, because we've obviously got an interest in this area and it makes sense to be connected. So please, follow each other. That'd be great. And I'll wind it up if you're all okay with that.
If anyone's not following Pensive, they should as well. And probably maybe Lightwalk. I don't know who he is, but maybe he's worth following too, or she.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Everyone follow. The people in this side have been, the comments have been great, and even people that are interested, we're obviously, got some common ground here.
Thanks for that link, Brian.
So,
big conversation, Margaret. I'm really glad.
Continued. And I haven't set the topic for next week, but it's it will be under the banner of spiritual conversations at the same time. We'll aim that the power won't go out on me next week. And thanks, Kathleen, for hosting it.
No problem.
In my inability to kick it off in time.
No, it's good. It's good to be able to do that for you.
I've got a final quote, which is one of my favourites from Einstein. He said, will I get it right? Science without religion is blind, and religion without science is lame. And he was a person who was regarded, would say, I think it well known that he was of a spiritual nature. He looked to the spirit and wrote a lot in that realm, as well as his scientific, genius. And he said that the two must go together. We can't look at one and isolate the other. And I love that approach. So on that note, thanks everyone for contributing, including those with commenting. Catch you next time for Spiritual Conversations.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Marg. Thank you, Marg. Look forward to next Friday. Bye. Lovely to meet you, Brian.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Good to see you again, Vin.
Nice to see you again, Kathleen.
Mate.